Good morning, everybody, or I guess officially afternoon now that it's 12 o'clock. Hello. I'm going to go ahead and welcome you today to our webinar. My name is Alex. This is Yago with me. We're both from SimSystem Americas. We're really glad that you're joining us here today for our webinar. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll talk about a little bit about what we're doing today. But glad to have you. We'll probably have some people trickling in for the first 5 or 10 minutes or so. For today's talk, we're here to talk about MillBox and Strategy Editor, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. But just, yeah, want to welcome you. If you have any questions throughout the duration of our presentation, go ahead and I'll be moderating today's conversation and just I'll ask questions if I think of them on your behalf. But if you've got a question, you can go ahead and put it into the chat or the Q&A. We'll go ahead and answer those on the spot if we're able to. If it's a good time, I can interrupt Yago and say, hey, I've got this question. Or we'll wait until the end, and certainly we'll have some time at the end just for your questions, so you can stack them there if you have anything. But really glad to have you. I'm going to activate a quick little poll. So I'll launch that. Just give us some information about who's here today, what your role is, whether you already have Millbox, and we've got a question in there. I'm really curious, since we're talking about strategy adjustments, and Yago and I were actually just talking about how it's not always, there's not a lot of knowledge maybe, or we're curious how much knowledge is out there about making strategy changes already. Maybe there's a ton of knowledge in the room or in general that I don't know about. But just curious if you've ever had experience managing your own strategies before, might know terms like feed rate, Z-step, spindle speed, have any idea of how those relate to one another and what kind of changes before we ever talk about strategy editor. Because one thing that maybe Yago will get to, but it's good to have you're going to need a foundation of machining
Yeah.
knowledge to really be effective to use strategy editor yourself. Otherwise, I'll say we pretty much think that the dealers and we should be able to help you implement those changes and teach you. But it's not something that you might just know or be able to do really quickly because this is certainly advanced. And the great thing is that with MillBox, you're given access to tools like Strategy Editor, even if you don't have the knowledge. It can be dangerous, but it's also very, very good that you'll have access to it if you want to learn. So anyways, let me back up a little bit. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Thank you very much for being here. And I'll keep the poll going until the end of this, and then we'll check back in. But again, like I said, if you have any questions throughout the duration of the presentation today, feel free to ask. Happy to answer any questions you might have, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and on away we go. So welcome. Like I said, we are Sim System or Chim System if you are in Milan, our headquarters. Today's talk is about MillBox. It's about understanding strategy editor and builder, built-in advanced features built into MillBox for managing your strategy. With us, we've got Yago Leal. He's our Chief Technical Engineer here in the Americas office. Yeah, say hey, Yago. Yeah.
Hey, how are you
And
guys?
I'll get back to him in a second. We'll let him intro himself. But Yago's a great guy, good friend, and very, very, he's the person to talk to on this. And so I'm glad he's here with us today and has trained a lot of people, a lot of our dealers on how to use these tools. Again, requires a great technician to know how to do this. And we're glad we have Yago today. So this is our conversation. A little bit about SimSystem. SimSystem is a software developing company beyond dental. So we primarily focus on software and solutions for manufacturing, both additive and subtractive or milling. So 3D printing, milling across different sectors. We're an in-house software development company, which is just really great and unique because you're able to work with us, process requests. You've got ideas. You can talk to us about it, and then our development team can go and implement those changes for the next release or the future release or whatever. And we're the ones implementing those changes. So you have very quick access to customizations because we're writing our own software. Our software is primarily focused on automating and making it as easy to use as possible for the average end user, but giving access to advanced tools behind, a toolbar or something. So you have everything you would possibly need in, let's say, a CAM software in terms of, all the tools you would need. It's fully customizable. It's a robust full cam software, but the user experience we try to make it streamlined and as easy as possible so it's accessible. So very advanced, but also very easy to use UI and interface. That's our goal with our software solutions. And so often they can come across as very, very easy to use. And we want to make sure we go into a topic like today where we say it's very, very advanced as well. And we're located all across the world, and you get support in your local region, which is wonderful. And today I'm located near Louisville, Kentucky. Yago's in Charlotte. We're in our U.S. office, which is located near Louisville, and then our home office is in Italy, and we have other offices around the world. Our industrial solutions are here, and I bring them up just so that you're aware. Often people aren't aware that we have an industrial suite of solutions that we're working on. Some 3D over on the right, obviously, if you're familiar with that software, that is the bones of MillBox, and it's used in industrial manufacturing as well as Paramus is used in 3D printing for dental, but it can be used in industrial as well. But our primary software in industrial, I would say, is Rhino NC. It's a plug-in CAM for Rhinoceros CAD. That's our industrial side. And dental, usually people are more familiar with MillBox, Make and Mill, and Paramus. Obviously, MillBox is what we're here to talk about today, the CAM software, a flagship CAM software, and very popular in the US and beyond. And then Paramus, like I said, is a 3D printing slicing software. In dental, it's often used with SLM, metal printing, although it has other applications as well. And then if it is metal printing, you can use Paramus to nest all your parts and slice and print. And then because you can use your milling machine, so you can see that image in the center to place that printed part into your disc with a special holder, into your clamp, I'm sorry, with a special holder, and you can refine areas like the internal of a cavity, for example, to get better finish quality on some of those areas that the printer couldn't produce. So it's a good hybrid solution. That's what Make and Mill is. It's kind of like a plugin for MillBox. It just it allows MillBox to mill metal 3D printed restorations in sensitive areas. So that's that. But MillBox is what we're here to talk about today, and I'll get out of the way. MillBox is, like I said, you can see it, easy to use CAM software, very powerful, filled with automations, filled with advanced features, everything you need for strategy management to push your mill, to be able to, if you want to go for speed or if you want to go for quality, and those are somewhat opposed, or if you're trying to find the absolute best, yeah, you can do it by adjusting things in MillBox. MillBox has all the tools you need, and that's actually what we're here to talk about today is strategy editor and kind of the intro to. So whether you're trying to reduce your milling time or just push it for amazing quality, MillBox has what you need. And we start with a baseline strategy, let's say, a good strategy that is just very, we're confident most users are going to be happy with. But there are ways, and that's what we'll get into today as I step out of the way a little bit. To strategy management. How do I change my default MillBox situation, and how do I make those adjustments? So today, like I said, Yago is with us. Yago is our chief technical engineer in the Americas. He's been working with SimSystem for way longer than he's been working as an employee of the company. He founded a lab in Brazil, where he's from, and yeah, glad to have you, Yago. Thanks for sharing with us today, and yeah, take it away.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen here. Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see it?
We're about to, and I'm going to close the poll. Thank you, everybody. Yago, for your info, just because I'm closing the poll, I'll tell you as you're opening here, it looks like we've got a good mix of people here, and it's all across the board, but it looks like our experience, yeah, it also varies. It's pretty much across the board. Quite a few people have more than 3 years of experience. Yeah, it's surprising. I asked if you have MillBox in the latest version. It looks like most people actually have MillBox and are on the latest version, so 2/3 of our audience. But then the remaining third is no, they don't have MillBox or they're running an old version. So you definitely want a new version if you're going to, some of these things we would say, but we'll explain why. And in terms of how comfortable they are making strategy adjustments, again, across the board, but I would say more on the positive half from 5 and up is, most of the people. So we'll see.
Yeah. So before explaining about strategy editor and strategy builder, I just would like to point, like you mentioned, that in order for you to fully use these two, you would need to have like a milling knowledge, like a mechanical knowledge about like the materials, about your machine, about the tools that you're going to use. We can make good things out of the strategy editor, like changing our milling parameters, for example, but you can also cause like issues on your mini machine, right? So it is something that we need to understand in deep what we are doing here, because you can cause a few issues on your strategies and a few things. So what I will explain here, it is the idea behind strategy editor and the builder as well, which is a new tool that we just released like a couple of months ago. Because those tools are very important for us at Scene System to develop our own strategies, and as well for like machine manufacturers, for dealers that would like to improve and test like new tools, new materials. So it is a very, very important feature for us to use. So before getting started with that, I just would like to explain like in the past and what we did in order to try to improve that type of workflow for the end users. So in the past, when we launched the software like 20 years ago, like Sun 3D, we had like specific strategies for each restoration, for each material, and we were kind of adjusting that depending on the market. So we might have like a different strategy in Europe, a different strategy like in South America or North America, and that would make hard for us to manage all of those strategies. So like 8 years ago, I would say, we decided to move to a mono strategy, which was like a huge strategy that had like operations for that everybody in the world could use. So instead of having like specific strategies for each market, we decided to create like a huge strategy and keep adding stuff on that strategy. So everybody uses the same strategy around the world. We just select what we want to use from that strategy. And that improved a lot our the way that we used to work with the strategies, because if I find a bug or I need to fix something here on a version from my side, everybody around the world gets that fix on the next release, on the next version of that strategy. So we don't need to keep fixing stuff like in several versions. So that's something that was a huge point for us, I would say. And strategy editor, we released that like 4 years ago, I would say, or 5 years ago. And the first version had like some limitations, and we are always like increasing the capabilities of that too. And we will show you what you can do and what you can accomplish with the editor, because we try to make it a simple feature for us to manipulate our strategies. Like I said, it is something that I believe you need to have knowledge on milling in order to use it properly. Mainly if you're working like with milling parameters, like adjusting RPM, feed rate, Z-step, step over. But if you're just like manipulating a few options, maybe it is something that you can use. So not everybody will have access to strategy editor. Okay. Here in the Americas, you will need to have the expert license. And depending where you are, like if you're from Asia, you might need to have the module on your dongle to be able to have access to the editor. And the builder, it is something that we didn't release to customers yet. So far, it's just for us internally and dealers and machine manufacturers. But I'll explain a little bit about both. So in order for us to get to the strategy editor, we need to go on tools and then configuration. Okay. And then if you have that available in your dongle, you should see here strategy options. Okay. Once you click here, it will open the area for strategy editor. And here, the first thing it is, we will need to select like our machine and our tool set. So when we have here like Scene System and then standard, I don't know if you can see that properly or if it's too small. But here I have Scene System, which is my machine, and standard, it is my tool set. Okay. Here you'll be able to see like different tool sets or different machines if you have. So here, for example, I have a Scene System and an OSG tool set, for example. I'll use the standard tool set here and select like zirconium, for example. Okay. Once you click here, the software will open, and that's the area that we are going to use in order to manipulate our strategy. So I'll explain to you guys first the area, like each region, each area that we have here, and then a few of the buttons. And then we're going to do like some workflows and explanation about a few operations here and a few things. So here in this area, like I mentioned to you, we have the machine list, which contains like the machine and then the tool set, or as well, if you have like a different fixture. So here I have, for example, my regular machine, and I have like a C-clamp machine, okay? So for example, if I click on this one, I'm adjusting my strategies for the C-clamp machine. And
Mhm.
we differentiate those mainly because, well, if you're using a C clamp, depending on the way that you have your clamp, maybe you need to adjust the parameters a little bit different than the full
Mm.
clamp because you have more stability on the full clamp, for example. So we differentiate the fixtures as well, and of course the tool sets that you have. Okay.
Mm.
Here we have the material list. So all of the materials available for your machine should be listed here. And I don't know if you can see, but we have blue materials and we have red materials. So blue materials are materials that we consider soft materials. They are easy to mill, let's say, and the majority of the machines are able to mill those. And then we have hard materials, which are displayed in red here, which are like hard materials, like I just mentioned, which are materials that are harder to mill, like titanium, chrome cobalt, sometimes glass ceramics. Okay, so we just differentiate those into different colors, but you can adjust like whatever you would like per material. Here in this area, we have the restoration type filter. So here you can change to whatever restoration we have available in MillBox. So depending on the material that you have selected here, you won't see some types of restoration, okay? So for example, usually we don't mill dentures in zirconia.
Mm.
It's mainly like PMA, right? So if you have zirconia selected here, you won't see some restorations like denture, for example. But if I change to PMA, for example, here, and then I go, then I have, for example, a denture or denture teeth. Okay, so the restoration type filter will be different depending on the material that you are that you have selected here. Okay,
Mm.
so depending on the restoration type, you might see different options for your strategy. Okay, so this is
Mm.
the option that I have for the restoration type that I have selected here. So if I change from coping to like an anatomic abutment bridge or implant bridge, I will see more options here because this type of restoration has more options. So I have like drilling, I have interface finishing, which we'll explain in a moment.
Mm.
Okay, so this might change depending on your selection here.
Yeah.
Then
Mm.
here we have like a summary of the options that we have selected for this restoration in this material for this machine in this tool set. So we can group into different orders here, like a group order that will just group regarding the group of operations that we have here, like roughing, finishing, drilling, or I can check here the execution order. So here, as you can see, we have the execution order, which will be exactly the way that my strategy will be executed. Okay. So first I have like a roughing fast. That is an option that I will explain in a moment. Then I have like the regular roughing, then the roughing crown, the rest material, and this goes on. Okay.
Mm.
Every time that you see a change of colors here, this means that you might have a tool change. Okay. So for example, here, the roughing fast, it is with a 4mm tool. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can move the zoom. Okay.
Mm.
So if you click on those icons here, you'll be able to expand that area. So it's easier for you to see exactly what's going on here.
Hey,
So
Yago.
here, yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you. We
yeah,
got a
no worries.
question here. I know this is a strategy editor thing. Are you able to use like screen zoom like we do sometimes and just make this a little larger for us on the screen share?
Uh, I don't think I have that tool right now because I just got a
Uh,
new laptop.
okay, that's fine.
But I might try to change my resolution here just to see how it
Sure.
goes.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem.
or
Well, while
maybe
you do that too, I was thinking, maybe it's good for us to, yeah, we're going in and that's wonderful. I wonder if anybody might be thinking, okay, now we're really far in here already and I'm seeing this. I know first time I saw strategy editor, I was like, that's a lot of information on the screen. You know what I mean? What's going on here? You're doing a good job explaining the different sections. I was wondering if it might be helpful for us to back up while you're doing this and explain like, what is the strategy when we're talking about editing the strategy?
Mhm.
What do we mean by what is the strategy? Would you answer that for us?
Yeah, so the strategy it is basically uh like exactly what you be using in order to produce your parts, like your STL files. So it will
Hmm.
dictate like all of the operations that
Yep.
we are going to apply in order to produce the part that you have. I believe that's better, right?
Yeah. So each part of the strategy, and sorry, would be like roughing. It's like the way the tool is moving through and spinning and cutting through the material. Like, what does the tool path look like when you
Yeah.
actually
So
visualize it? Yeah. What does it
usually
do?
when they explain about strategy, some people call template as well.
Hmm.
But usually when they explain about like strategy, I I give like people an example about like the difference between the meeting parameters and the strategy itself, like the template. I
Mm.
give like an example about like a GPS. Like when you're going like from point A to point B, the GPS will suggest you like three roads, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the strategy will be like something similar to that, like a way for you to achieve from point A to point B. So the strategy
Yeah.
will dictate like the path that you are going to use, like the
Right.
two path, for example, or give you options for that.
Yeah. What does the road
But
look like?
you're getting there on point B, for example. And then the
Yeah.
meeting parameters will be like, for example, how fast you can get there, right? So
Mm.
should I de-accelerate like on the curves? Should I use this car or this car? Like the cars are like twos, for example. If I use a
Yeah.
faster car here, I can achieve like getting to the point B faster, right? So I would usually compare it to like a GPS and a map and a car. So the strategy will dictate the tool path, like the exactly where your tool is going to pass through, removing all of that material to give you like the final result that is the part, the STL file. Okay. And then the meeting parameters is like how fast, how deep you can remove that material. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let me go back here.
Yeah. We've got a yeah. Yeah, we got a user that hopped in here quick and provided something that Yago actually gave to them. But what is strategy? I'll just read it out loud, I guess. But the strategies determine how efficient, accurate, and safe the toolpaths are for producing a restoration. Then a series of code, we'd say G code, instructs the mill about which tools to use, the speed of the
Yeah.
tooling, the number of movements, while protecting fine details like the margins for consistent manufacturing success. So, yeah, absolutely. That's a really great illustration you gave us saying that, like how are we going to get down the road to that area? What does that road look like?
Yeah.
That's like the tool path or whatever we would say, and then like the strategy, the parameters or whatever. That's great. Like what's the car that we're driving? How fast can we go? All those kinds of things. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Or for example, sometimes it's not regarding speed, it's regarding like because like of course if you get a very fast car,
Yeah.
but your road like full of curves that you need to take care, maybe it's not good to drive as fast as
Gotta have
like
good
that car
handling.
can go. So the
Yeah.
machine needs to handle that. So it's a nice a nice way of thinking, let's say comparing like the meeting strategy in Gento, for example, with
Yeah.
like a car or road. Okay. Uh,
Absolutely. And Yago, sorry to say one more thing there, but I think, yeah, like absolutely. We always say strategy editor is based on the user's individual situation, which is where it's like, okay, yeah, what tools are you using?
yeah,
What are the capabilities for you? Because when you get in a strategy editor, you're taking yourself off of, a strategy that we've said this is a good strategy for most users. What you're
yeah,
doing is you're saying, I kind of want to upgrade for something. And then it's like, well, what tools are you using? All of your equipment, your machine, your tool, everything comes into
yeah.
play for the
So
possibilities.
the configuration that we have, it is always like, okay, we have, for example, for that specific machine manufacturer, we have those tools available for us. And
Yeah.
of course, we always try to test with the machine manufacturer for everything that we apply here, but we create like a base strategy that we believe like will get like everybody happy with that.
Hmm.
Like there won't be complaints and everybody will be happy with that. But sometimes maybe like yeah, you're happy, but I would like to improve like my part. I like the finishing, but I deliver like a very very premium like quality parts, and I would like to improve my external finishing or my like interface finishing. Even if it takes like a few minutes more, I would like to have that. So you can tweak
Mm.
your strategy in order to achieve those results, right?
Yep.
There will be something that we are going to deliver, that we're going to release next year as well, that will help you with that. But I can't say much. It's not officially released yet. Okay, but regarding qualities, that is something that we are planning for next year. Okay,
Awesome.
but okay, so
Thanks.
here, when we have here like on the summary, we can select like group order. That will be the group that we see here, or the execution order. And whenever we see a different color here, this means that we have a tool change. So for example, if I select my 4mm tool to rough faster here, like with this option, there will be a tool change that later it will do like the regular roughing, or in this case, it would be treated as a rest meeting because we already have the roughing being done here. So with a 2.52, for example, then it will move later to a 1.52, depending on the case here. That is something that I will explain in a moment to you guys, because usually those tools here, you see like a different tool changes. This necessarily will not happen because those are the drillings, and we have like drilling with a short tool and with a long tool. So usually this tool here will only be, like the tool path will only be enabled if, by the way, this tool is not able to fully mill the entire length of my screw channel. Okay, but here you can double check exactly what is going on with your strategy and the order. Okay, then here we have the new parameters, and this is basically like when we update the strategy from one version to another version, we might have released like new operations. Okay, usually if you don't care too much about new things that we release, you can always check the release notes, which I will show in a moment. But they will be displayed here, everything that is new regarding that strategy. Okay, so for example, let's say that we just released a new type of undercut. Okay, so you see here like undercut, whatever name we gave, like it's a new option. And then if you scroll down, you will see like a warning message informing that on the undercut area, there will be new options for you. If you don't want to use them, that is fine, just ignore them. But if you'd like to use them, then we need to assign to and configure that in a way that we make it work, let's say. Then this area here, it is just like strategy information. So if you click here on this button, it will just lead you to the folder where we have that strategy set. Then here it is a version of the strategy that we are currently using. Right now it's version 5.10. And as you can see here, this icon means that there is a new version available. Before deciding if you would like to update your strategy, you can click on this button here to open the release notes. Okay, so here we have the latest one is the version 5.2.0. And here you can see everything that we updated on this version and all the other versions as well. So you can double check what we are doing with the latest versions, what we are fixing, what we are implementing here before deciding if you would like to update. If you would like to update, just click on this button. It will update the strategy. And a very important thing here is that once you update the strategy, like if you're updating from version like 5 to 5.20, okay, 5.00 to 5.20, that update, it is not messing around with your configuration, okay? That is basically updating and fixing the bugs and adding like new options for you to select here. But everything that we configure here, it won't be damaged by the update. Okay, I will open here the folder just to briefly explain that to you. But usually right now we have 3 files. One, this is the strategy. The STF, it is for strategy editor, which will contain which operations we are going to use to build our strategy. And then the TXT will be like the exactly operations that we are going to use for our configuration. So here inside of this file, of course, it will be hard to understand, but it contains like the machine, the tool set, the material, and for each of those operations, if we would like to use that or not, okay, if we're going to display that or not. So this is the one controlling your configuration. So when we update the strategy, we are basically updating the CSV file, so we're not damaging your configuration. Your configuration is safe on those 2 files here, okay? Then the last time that you added that strategy, it was this morning. I was doing a few tests before the seminar. But here you have like just like a date that you last added that. And here we have the options available regarding this machine, this material, this restoration type, and whatever group we have selected here. So right now, I don't have any group selected. I'm selecting like all groups here, and I can see everything. But if I click, for example, just on the finishing cavity, for example, I can see options just for the finishing cavity. So that's like a filter for the group that I have selected here. Okay. Now that is the main areas, let's say, here on the editor. And now we have the buttons. The bottom buttons I will explain in a moment, but I will explain mainly about those four buttons here. So for every operation that we have, so here, for example, for the finishing cavity, we have options for like a 5-axis 3D profile pocketing, a 3+2, or a 5-axis starting from the internal, like towards outside. So you can click here to see like an image if you would like to understand a little bit better about what that option is changing to you, or if you select that, what is the result that you might have. So for all of those options here, you have like 4 ways of configuring your strategy. So like I said before, we decided in the past to make like a huge strategy with a bunch of options, right? So here, the thing that we need to do on the editor, it is basically deciding, would I like to use that or not? Or would I like to give that as an option or not? So most of you that are familiar with MillBox, usually when you start a calculation, I will click here on this option preview, you would see something like this, right? So those are the options that you have when you start, like, and click like start the calculation on the software, right? And here you can click and understand a little bit better about what that operation is doing, right? So everything that you see here, it is customizable by the strategy editor. So for example, here, right now on this version that I have, I already have my undercuts already marked as default. Okay,
Yeah,
so
pre-selected.
that is something that we are doing on the few next versions of the of our configurations, because for bigger parts like bridges and full arches, mainly we need to select the undercuts. So we are just marking them as default. Okay, so for example, let's say that on the lab, well, I always use the 4mm tool. I don't want to keep, every time that I calculate this part, like keep selecting that. I want to make that as default, so I don't care. Like I don't worry about that in the future, right? So what we can do here, for every operation, we can do like 4 types of configuration. And we have here like value and visible, okay? So value, it is basically, are we going to use that or not? And then visible is that I'm going to see that when I click like start the calculation or not, okay? So Alex, I can hear like a background noise from you. So if you can mute yourself for the moment. If you like to say something, you can unmute yourself. Sorry about that. So here, like whenever we have something like this means that we are using that operation, but we are doing that on the background. The end user, when he clicks like start calculation, he's not seeing that because it's not visible. If you have something like this where you don't have this tag like market and the lamp is off, like you're not visible, we are not using that operation on the background. Okay, so those are 2 ways. And then the other ways are, I can show to the end user that as an option. Okay, so if I click here, now I see that like finishing internal cavity 5-axis, and it will be tagged as default. Well, I don't want to tag as default because for the majority of the cases, I'm not going to use that. So I prefer to have that like, don't be like selected already. So I can just unmark that option here. And whenever I start the calculation, I would see something like this, and I will need to click there, okay? So you can control by just adjusting those 2 values here for every operation. Okay, so for example, on the example that I just gave to you regarding the roughing fast with the 4mm, I will need to go on my roughing here, and instead of having like this, where I have an option here that every time I have to select that option when I click start calculation, I can say, well, I will just hit that button there. And every time that I calculate this part in this material for this machine and this tool set, that will be already marked as default. Okay. Well, I want to hide that option because I have like customers that they don't understand exactly what's going on. I don't want to give them any option. We can do that. It's just hiding all of those and configuring the way that you want your customers to have that strategy using this method here, like selecting or not selecting that operation if you don't want that, and hiding the visible here. So it's not visible for when the end user it is going to calculate that option. Okay. This will depend a lot on what the expectation for the end user, the knowledge for the end user is, right? So for example, we have a bunch of types of customers, but we have like customers that sometimes they don't fully understand what those options are, and they don't select nothing here and they just proceed with the calculation, and then they might, well, I check the simulation and my part like is missing something here. Yeah, because you missed like the anatomic details with the 0.32 and it's not removing the anatomic details there. You have to mark that option. So if you have a customer that is, or you are the case that I don't know exactly what I'm selecting there, you can ask your dealer, for example, to help you configuring the strategy in a way that you don't even see those options here. When you hit start calculation, it will go directly to the calculation of the strategy because everything will be already preset to you. Okay. So for example, here, something that we do a lot for the end users, and as I just said, we are doing that in the next versions of our installers as well. It is setting the undercut for bigger parts like full arches as default, because if you don't select the undercuts, it will be like you have straight walls because it won't be removing the undercuts. If you want, you can just hide them and it will be used on the background of the software. Okay.
Sorry, Yago, can I hop in here quick?
Sure.
Just from a commercial perspective, anytime we hit this topic, I always want to like say something to it because this is unique to MillBox. So he's talking about your full arch external undercuts and how in MillBox you don't have to paint a user-defined area for it to detect your undercuts. Unlike other CAM softwares, you don't have to go put in a user-defined area. MillBox will take those undercut visualizations that are blue in MillBox, dark blue.
Yep.
And then when you're in the milling options that Yago's showing you, he's setting it now so that automatically it's going to machine those undercuts with the 3+2 toolpath. Meaning you didn't have to designate, and then in this case, you didn't have to do anything with your undercuts. They just got milled out automatically. That's different than other CAM softwares on the market. That's what I'd say.
And for you that are used to MillBox and changing your own strategies or are already working with the editor, you might see something different here from this view, because as I believe you know, we have a lot of options for undercut, not only 3+2 20 degrees. And you don't see them here because of Strategy Builder, which I will explain in the last like 5 minutes of this call, of this webinar, but this is due to the Strategy Builder, okay? But for every operation that we have in MillBox, you can control using those 4 ways of setting like a value set as default and hide that from the end user, not set that as default and hide that from the end user, show to the end user and not marked as default, or show to the end user and then set as default already selected. So the end user can unmark that if they don't want to, okay? So for every operation, you can do that, okay? And then for every operation as well, you can assign a tool, okay? So when you click here on any operation, like a roughing or whatever, you have that button here, which you can assign a tool to that operation. The thing here is, when you click here, like in this version, I have like a couple of tools that I can use. So if I want to change to a 1.5 ball tool, for example, I can just confirm and the software is going to change that and assign my 1.5 tool here, okay? You won't see every tool that you have available here, and I'll explain to you why. So we did that in a way that, for example, this is undercuts. So if I go to my roughing, for example, and I want to assign like a roughing tool here, and I click here, those are different tools, okay, that you have seen before on the undercut. Basically, what we try to do is that we try to assign the milling parameters for what those tools are able to do. So for example, here on the roughing, as you can see, we only have assigned like bigger tools that are capable of producing like the roughing toolpath, okay? Usually we don't set like the 0.6 to rough because it will take like hours to remove all those materials, right? So here, depending on the operation that you're trying to assign a tool, you won't see every tool that you have available for you, okay? So once you click here on the gear button, you will be able to see the milling parameters, which we're going to explain in a moment to you. So whenever you have, like you are trying to assign a tool here, you will only see the tools that you have that milling parameter available for you. Okay, so this means that for those tools, I have the roughing. For the other tools that I was displaying on the undercut, I had the undercut milling parameters defined for those tools. Okay, yeah, but for some reason, I would like to use the 1 mm tool to rough everything. Okay, of course, that's not ideal. But I had a case with a manufacturer like willing to test how many hours that tool will last. And I want to use the 1 mm for everything. So they rough, they drill, they did everything with the 1 mm. Okay, just to see how long it will last. So if you click here on the plus button, this will display to you every tool that you have available on your machine for that material. Okay, so those are all the tools that I have available here. The ones with the black gear, as you can see here, we already have the milling parameters defined for that. The ones with the red gear, I don't have the milling parameters defined on that. Okay, so if I select like one tool with the red gear here, like clicking on that button and assigning here, for example, the software will display me like an error saying that, well, that tool is missing the milling parameters. So you don't have the milling parameters defined. For those that use Semperly like 10 years ago, I don't know if you remember like a warning message when you start the calculation saying like, hey, you're missing like that milling parameter. So this is trying to avoid that error, for example. So we can see exactly what's going on here when we're assigning our tools. So if I want to use the 1 mm here, because I want to test that tool, for example, I would need to first, to avoid that error, to assign my milling parameters here. Okay, so once I click here, I can either define manually my milling parameters here, or usually what I do, I can click on this button and try to copy from a similar operation, like a rest material, depending on what operation you're trying to add. Right now, it's the roughing. So something that is similar to roughing, it is a rest material, which is removing material as well. So I will try to copy from that, for example. And then after I copy that, then I can easily change my milling parameters if I need to. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, mainly if you're working with milling parameters, it is something that I highly suggest you to get more knowledge on general milling, because if you play with those values here and you don't understand them, it might cause you like a lot of issues. Okay, so I will kind of try to briefly explain the main ones here, which are the ones that I have here, just to give you like a general knowledge. But please, if you don't know what you're doing, ask like for assistance, ask for help, because that is something that might cause you like issues on the machine side. Okay, so RPM, as the name says, spindle speed is how much like rotations per minute your spindle is doing. Okay, this will depend a lot on your spindle, on the material that you want to use, on the tool that you're using as well. So, for example, for PMA, for roughing, usually we would like to use like a smaller RPM, because if you're dry kneading that, maybe it will heat the material and it will stick to the tool. So for example, if you're using like a 4 mm tool, usually we go like 14,000 RPM and not 30,000 RPM like in this one. This one is usually because it's the 1 mm. XY feed rate and Z feed rate. those are the speed that we are moving either laterally or on the z-axis with our tool. Okay, so these are in millimeters per minute. Okay, then we have here fit rate XY full material, which is basically we use that in two main things. So either when we are roughing, we are like plunging to the material, and all around our material, all around our tool, either the name like full material, it's full of material around our tool. We can go like a little bit slower on those areas. Okay, so for example, when we're plunging from one step to the other, and it's like the first pass for that layer of the Z level, for example, so we are removing more material, so it's more stress on the two side. We can go slower on that, or here as well when it's close to the margin line. Okay, so for example, we have here like our finishing external, where we have like different types of tool paths. Okay, this PMA, so usually we don't set in PMA, but maybe in zirconia is something that we do. So we are doing like 2000 millimeters per minute, but when it's close to the margin line on the finishing side, I can go like 1000 millimeters per minute, so it's like half of what we're going, so it will protect our margin line from chipping, for example. Okay, so that's where we use those. Then here at the bottom, I won't explain too much about those here in the middle, because we can use them, but usually we don't use them. Then we have here like the engagement angle. So whenever we are removing material, so from one layer to the other, like when we are going from one point to the other, like in Z, we need to tell the software how I would like to get like from point A to point B in the height. If I would like just to drill like a direct drilling here, or if I would like to have an angle to achieve from one point to the other. So I will show you in some 3Ds. Okay, so the blue area is the one that we are going close to the margin line, so it's using the lower feed rate. Okay, and the red one is the regular tool path where we can go like faster. Regarding the Z here, for example, let me see. Let me reopen that because I had the software closed. Okay, I had this part calculated here. Okay, so let me hide my fixture. So this is the old Sun3D, okay, the MillBox Expert. So the angle, it is this one here. Okay, so when I'm roughing, for example, and I'm getting from this point to this point here, I need to tell the software, would I like to go and plunge like 90 degrees or like 15 degrees? So lower the degree, it will be better for the tool to plunge from one step to the other, for example. Okay, then let me keep Sun3D open. And here on MillBox, now we have like this shortcut that will lead us to strategy editor as well. Okay, so if I click here, it is going to open exactly my restoration type, my the material that I have on that job, and my machine. Okay, so let me select here. So this one here will be the blue toolpath that we see here in Sun3D. As you can see here, whenever we are like plunging into the material, it's full of material around my tool, it is going to use the lower feed rate, and other than the red toolpaths or the faster feed rates, let's say. Then here, the Z engagement angle that I just explained to you. The XY maximum removal, it is the step over that usually people call step over, which is the lateral pass for that tool. So here, when we are setting that, we can use either like a value like this, 0.2. So this will tell, well, I'm using a lateral pass of 0.2. If, by the way, I use like a higher number like that, we understand that this is not, you don't want to use like a step over of 50 millimeters. So we are using a percentage of the tool. Okay, so if your tool is 2 millimeter, that will be like 1 millimeter. Okay, it's 50% of the diameter of the tool. So this will basically dictate the lateral pass. So for example, here, my tool, it is this one here. So from this pass to this pass, like the when it's moving laterally, we are going like 50% of the two in this case, okay? Then we have the step down, which is the Z maximum removal. It is how much we are going to remove on the Z step. So for example, from this point to this point here, it will be dictated by that value, so 1 millimeter. So in this case, if I want to make my roughing a little bit faster, I can go like 1.2, okay? Can I go 3 millimeters? You can change, you can use whatever value you would like here, but this will probably cause a two break, okay? So changing the milling parameters here might affect the result that you have. So I wouldn't apply any change here if you don't know exactly what you're doing, okay? So just to give you a rough example, so changing the Z step is something that will dictate a lot how faster you can get your crowns, okay, your restorations that you're emitting. So higher the step down here, like the Z step, it will produce faster restoration. So this is the roughing. But if we are discussing about the finishing, for example, here on the finishing, if I'm changing that like from 0.1 to 0.15, that will probably be fine. I will be able to use that and mute that restoration with 0.15, and it will produce a way faster crown, in this case, full contour crown, but the quality of that crown will be way less than before, because what I'm changing here, it is basically the distances, like here, for example, between each two path here, each line that you see in red, it is the two path. So the two is doing this movement here, okay? So if I'm going from like the 0.1 here to, let's say, 0.2, here I'm mainly changing directly in Sun3D, but changing there on the strategy editor will produce you the same behavior, let's say, the same result, okay? So changing from 0.1 to 0.2 here, as you can see now, I can see less lines. So this means that during this two path, the distance between each two path here will be bigger. So it will be faster, but the end result, like the external quality, might be worse, okay? That is just something that you need to take in consideration as well. Then oversize, it is how much we leave behind when we are meeting that operation. Usually we use for roughing and rest material. So we have to leave some material behind for us to remove later with a finishing. Okay. So
Hey,
those
Yago.
are.
A quick question. When you were talking about the feed rate near the margin line slowing down, was that the small radius or the corner on the screen here where you have percentage
That
feed
is
rate?
the feed rate full material, this one here.
Okay.
So in this case, for example, let me go back here to show you. Okay, this is the finishing on the cavity side, right? So let me open here so you can see on the same screen. So right now I have my XY feed rate on 1700. So this means that whenever I see a red line here, in those red lines, whenever the two is on that area, it is going 1700 millimeters per minute. So it's going faster. Whenever it is close to the margin line for the finishing, it is using the feed rate XY full material, and it's going like 500 less than the red one. So it's going slower to try to protect the margin line. So for example, if you're getting chips, for example, you don't need to adjust the whole thing, because if you adjust the whole thing, for example, let's say that for some reason you need to go and use, let's say 500, right? So if you do something like this, okay, this will increase a lot your milling time, because you're going from 1700 to 500. So it's like less than a third of the speed. But you don't need to do that. You can keep your original one, for example, and just set here, because this means that you're going slower when you're close to the margin line, and then faster on the external areas, which usually you don't have like chipping problems, right? So you can do something like that here. So that is the XY full material. Okay, we use that in two scenarios: either here when we are finishing and close to the margin line, or when we are roughing and we are plunging to the material, like in each layer of material that we are plunging, and On the first pass that is full of material and there's more stress on the tool, you can dictate as well a lower feed rate here. Okay, usually we are using for those two. Okay, so you can define here on strategy editor those changes as well. On strategy editor, if you're working with the feed rates, you can also apply like a percentage. For example, if you want to increase or decrease your feed rate. And it's nice because you always have like the original value here set, because sometimes you change and you don't remember the value. So for the feed rate and the RPM, we can do something like that, but not for like those other values here. Okay, there are more that what we can do here, like a feed rate for a corner. So every time that we find like either a small radius or a corner, it will decrease the feed rate as well. But usually we don't do that anymore. We used to do that in the past, but the controllers for the machines are now handling that way better, the new machines. But in the past, we used to do that for like machines from like 20 years ago. Okay, but those are the meaning parameters. So whenever you are assigning the two, you can change those if you would like to, or if you have knowledge to. Again, if you don't have knowledge on changing meaning parameters, I would not risk doing that. I would stick into just controlling or your operations like I showed you. Okay, so for each type of restoration, for example, you have different tool paths that you can use here. So for example, for the finishing external, we have like a 3D that will do like a spiral around your part. This is the new 3D profile pocketing spiral, which will take the shape, like the arch shape, and will start opening considering that shape, because this one here will create like a point on the center and will start from that point like a spiral, like an actual spiral. This one will do a spiral, but will follow the actual shape of the arch. Okay, so it will do like a C or a U here at the beginning, will drive like a curve here and start opening that there.
Super cool. I
Then we have
remember the
like
old one, it had double passes, right? And then so this is awesome. That's great.
yeah, and that's the Z level. That is the oldest type of two path that we have, which will be like that, like a printer. You're familiar with a printing way, like the layers. It will be like something similar, but from the top to the bottom, like removing material from the top to the bottom. And we usually go back to mill some areas that are more like flat, like more horizontal, because since we are doing like in Z steps, considering the height, sometimes when we have like a flat area, it might leave some material behind, so it will go back and will refinish those areas. Okay. Sometimes I like to use the Z level for bridges because it is a safer two path, because we're removing material from the top to the lowest point. So it is safer mainly when we have like those valleys on the bridge. But some people like to use the 3D, either this one or that one, a little bit more, because the 3D, we usually have like one entry point on the two path, and we don't, how can I say that? We don't retract from connecting to the part like from these two paths. So we do like an entry point on the part, and we keep a constant contact point with the part. So this is better for some machines, because going back and forth with the Z level might you might see like a few marks depending on the status of your machine. Okay, so I would stick to just changing like from one option to the other here if you're not familiar with the meeting parameters. Okay, then here, whenever we apply a change, we can copy that to other restorations as well. And we have usually two ways of copying here. Overriding the data. So for example, here, I change it from Z level to the 3D spiral here, and I want to copy that for other restorations. Like I want to copy that for a bar, a button bridge. I can do and override the data here. Overriding the data will basically remove any option that you have on the other restoration. So once you click here, override the data, you can select exactly the group of options that you change it here on the anatomical button bridge. For example, we change it, let's say the finishing external and the roughing here. And I want to copy that to my bar and my button bridge. I will confirm, and the software is going to change those options to those restorations, okay? So you can select exactly what you want to copy from one to the other. And now if we go back here and see our finishing external, now it's set as 3D spiral pocketing because we changed that on the other restoration and we just copy to this restoration, okay? So you can copy from one to the other. This option here, usually I use when I have new operations, and you can copy that to other restorations, and this would not change if, by the way, you have something already set as default, like as an option for you. So if you have something that is already set and you want to change that, you need to select override. If you don't have like something new, you never set on that operation, on that restoration before, you can use this one. Okay, so you can use either one or the other. You select all the groups of operations that you change it here, and then you copy to the other restorations. And we can do the same for material. So I changed something here for zirconia, and I would like to copy for to translucent zirconia, for example. I can do the same. One thing that you need to consider here when you're copying either to a different material and a different machine or tool set, it is sometimes we don't have exactly the same tool available for us, right? So for example, in this case here in PMA, I have a 4mm tool. Okay, I have this 4mm flat tool here. If I want to copy whatever change I'm applying from PMA to zirconia, I don't have that tool available in my zirconia tool set, okay, in my zirconia material. So you just need to consider that sometimes when you're copying from different materials or different tool sets and different machines, you might need to manually change a few things here just to accommodate better the two options that you might have for that material, okay? Then you can copy from different materials and as well to different machines. So you can copy to another machine, you can export or import the configuration. And we have three ways of importing the configuration. When we export the configuration, it will create like a TXT file, okay, that is controlling your configuration like I showed you before, okay? And if I want to apply that in a different machine, I can just import that. Okay, so if you have a customer that wants to try something, you can adjust that at your side, for example, and export that to them. At his side, you can come here and import. So for example, in this case, we changed like bar in PMA or titanium or whatever. If you import that file, this option here, it is changing the entire configuration. When you are exporting like all of the materials, all of the restorations, okay? When you are importing, you can tell exactly what options you want to import. So whenever we export, the file that we export, it is the full configuration, okay? But if I am at the customer side or a different computer and I want to import, if I use this one, it is importing the full configuration, and I can select if I want to change and overwrite everything, okay? Or just append new options, for example. Then we have here only for the current material. So for example, you have two computers on your lab and you have customers like end users playing around with their strategies. And in one of those computers, let's say computer number one, you changed a bunch of things in PMA, and computer number two, you changed a bunch of things in zirconia. And now the zirconia is perfect for you. You would like to move over your configuration from zirconia to the computer number one. But you don't want to mess around with the PMA configuration there because that PMA configuration is better than the other computer. So you can export from the computer that you have zirconia, it will export the full configuration for all the materials. But on the computer number one, where you have the PMA configuration and you just want to change zirconia, just select your machine and then select the material here, zirconia. Once you import here, select here only for the current materials selection. So this means that when you are importing that, you are importing just for zirconia and all of the other materials won't be changed. So you keep your configuration for PMA, okay? And then you have the same for the material and as well restoration. So you can select, I want to import just my bar configuration in zirconia. I don't want to import that for like, I don't know, crown, for example. Okay, I just want to change the bar. So when you select those two options, you're controlling and importing just for a specific material or a specific material and restoration. Okay, so for example here, then I can select like the restoration that I want to use, and then the software is going to ask you which file you're going to use. You select that file that you just exported, open that, it will change the configuration. Okay. Another few buttons that we have here that I like a lot, it is the check strategy. So whenever you are applying changes, mainly when you're moving like from different materials or different machines and tool sets, you can use this check strategy here that will basically check your strategy for issues, okay? So I created an issue before that I showed you that I assigned a 1mm tool that didn't have meeting parameters on it, and it displayed like a warning for me, right? So if you click here on check strategy, it will it will take a few minutes, but it will go over all your configuration and check for possible issues, like a tool that you have assigned that is not present on your tools archive, or a tool that you have assigned to an operation, but you don't have the meeting parameters defined on that tool, okay? So it will do a great job checking your configuration. Update tools parameter, it is basically what I showed you before. Let me show you here. So in this case here, I only have my 2.5mm tool. So once I click here, I copy that from a different meaning parameter, a different operation, right? So I mentioned rest material. So when you do this button here, when you click on this button, if you assign, for example, a tool in an operation and you don't have the meeting parameter available on that tool, you can try to click on this button here to update the meeting parameters. So basically what we did in the background of the software, we have like a list of similar operations. Okay, so for example, a finishing 3D, which is for a 3D profile pocketing, it is similar than the Z level. Tool path is different, but usually the meeting parameters are very similar. So if you have like the finishing Z level on your tool, but you don't have the 3D, and you assign that tool for the 3D, and it's displaying an error to you, instead of you going and copying from finishing Z level, for example, you can try to click on this button here to update, because it will copy from similar operations to that operation that you are missing. Okay. Then we have here the tools archive, and that's the like MillBox expert or some 3D, where you can manipulate all of your tools. Okay. Just realize that is in Portuguese, but it's just to explain to you. Here you can set like different tools, different types of tools. So we have all of those different types of tools that you can assign here. Configure like all of the dimensions of your tools, depending on the type of tool that you have here, like a radius, the diameter, the length, assign different components here, and create new tools if you want to create new tools as well. So this is the area where you're going to use to append or add new tools for you. Okay. Then update is just like an update here for whenever we change something. Just like if we manually change something here, we can just update, and it will just refresh, let's say, the option that I see here. Okay. So this is basically the editor. And now I'll explain a little bit about the builder. Okay. Do we have a few questions about the editor?
Sure, great. We got one. And just thanks everybody for hanging on with us. I see most of you are all still with us. We'll continue on and we'll take more questions. If you're able to stick around, that's great. You'll also get a recording of this afterwards. So if you have to hop off, that's okay. You can always catch that again. But yeah, feel free to stay. We'll take questions as well. I'm sure Yago will take maybe 5-10 minutes, show us the builder, and then we'll take questions. One question we have now, Yago, for you is can you add, for example, a third internal finishing option if like the simulation shows that there's some material left in a corner, you didn't get it
Yes.
all. Yeah.
Yes. Right now, this version of my strategy, it is something that I did with the builder, which I will show in a moment. But for example, here, I'm not sure which restoration type you are talking about. But for example, for crown, for finishing cavity, for example, here in this version, I have like a first, second, and third. So I can add like 3 passes on my cavity here if I would like to. So the first pass is using a 5-axis with a 1mm tool. Then I already have a secondary pass set with my 0.62, which I can just select here, okay, if I want to use that. Let's say that you want to use two passes with the 1 millimeter and the third pass with a 0.6 in this case, okay? So what you can do, you can assign your 1 millimeter tool here, for example, okay, just assign your tool. So now it's another 1 millimeter, and you're going to do a second pass with the 1 millimeter. And for the third pass, you can assign, for example, the 0.6 and mark here. So this means that now I will have two passes with the 1 millimeter and a third pass with the 0.6. Okay. And then you, like I said, you can configure that the way that you need. So if you would like to have two passes with the 0.6 instead of just one with the 0.6, you can assign your 0.6 here. Usually for the majority of the options, we have like first, second, and third options. Usually if you need more than 3 passes on something, something is off, right? So either the billing parameter or the tool or something needs to be adjusted. So usually you don't need more than 3 passes. But yeah, you can do something like this here.
Great. Two more. All right. Second one, how do you export those changes that you make in some 3D to change the tool files?
Okay, so on the tool file, whenever I apply a change there, I need to export my tool archive, okay? So I will select one or two machines that I have here. For example, let's say that I created a new tool for all of those 3 machines here. I can export, and it will create a file. I can save that file like whatever, like a test, ARL, save that file. Then on the customer side, for example, I can import. Right now, I'm selecting like all the tools for all of the machines, right? So if I created a new tool for zirconia, for example, here, let's create like a 4 millimeter tool for zirconia, for example. Usually what I do, I would just open this tool here. I will add whatever I need here, like, oh, this is a 4 millimeter, the length is 24, for example. The number of the tool will now be like number 18. It's a 4 millimeter tool. The code, this is very important when you're dealing with strategy. The code of the tool, change your component. I'm not going to change now, but change your component to make sure that everything's fine. And I will append this tool on my archive. And I will save, I will exit without saving, because if I save, I'm saving on the top of my 2.5 tool that I just started this. So exit because I already added that on my archive. So exit, and I have my 4 millimeter tool here. So I can export just that tool, save the file on the customer side, go to the same area, tools archive here, and import on the customer. If it is a different machine, it will be imported in a different area here. You just select that tool, and then you can click move and change here the machine that you want to move that, or a different tool set or a different material.
Thanks. We got a follow up there too. I'm sure that was helpful. Maybe it's slightly different or the same, sorry. But just to clarify, the changes you make while in the some 3D screen where you see the tool paths, is that different? When you're in,
so this is a job that they already calculated on MillBox, and it always creates a some 3D file, right? So if I'm doing changes here, like the one that I showed you, this one that I changed like 0.2, right? Whenever I'm changing here on this job, I am not changing as default for future cases, okay? I'm changing just for this job. So I use Sun3D a lot to troubleshoot and to test things, but whatever changes you are applying here, you're not saving that as default. When you're working on the editor and you're changing here, like your mini parameters, this is changing as default. So all of your next jobs will be getting those mini parameters that you just defined.
Yep.
Okay. Here in Sun3D, when you change from here, where I am, it's not setting as default. For you to set as default in Sun3D, you need to open here the tools archive as well and change directly on the tools archive. But here, directly on the operation, is just for this job.
Great. All right, another one. This is from Marith. So, hey, good to see you. Is air milling. How do you remove air milling? She's saying, can we remove that? Is air milling necessary? She's had experiences. I mean, I know it's not necessary, so maybe this will get us into the builder, of course, too. So if you want to table it, we've got one more question, but we can always come back to it. But how do you remove air milling?
It depends on the air milling type. So usually you have air milling. They'll explain to you a few things. So Usually error meeting happens because sometimes it's mainly like on roughing or rest meeting. So it is either because we are not seeing, when I say we, it's like the operation is not seeing exactly the material that is being left behind by previous operations, right? So you can try to update your strategy to see if that fixes that. But we have two ways of calculating the rest material that is left behind by previous operation. We can either calculate the actual material that we see from the tool path we're moving, or we can just anticipate the tool diameter and we tell like that's the previous tool diameter. So calculating the exactly material left behind by previous operations will take more time for the computer to compute exactly the area and to remove exactly those points, but it's more precise and hardly will give you like error meaning.
Hmm.
Using the previous two diameter might give you a little bit of error meaning because we're just considering, well, the previous two was like 2.5. Now I'm using the 1 millimeter, so I'm passing to those areas. And usually we tend to be a little bit safer and do a little bit of error meaning when we are using that, just to compensate for possible scenarios where we don't go exactly on those areas. So we prefer to error meal a little bit instead of not checking exactly where that tube passed and plunge into the material and cause a tube change, tube break. So we have those two ways. So usually, if you have like a lot of air meal, I would suggest you to update your strategy just to confirm that, because before we had a few operations, but it was like on version 3 or something, where we had like a few issues where the rest material was not updating properly and it was causing a little bit of error muse. So the first step for those error muse is just to try to update your strategy. And if it's not resolving the situation, let us know, create a backup
Yeah.
file, send to
Yeah.
us so we can evaluate in depth.
Yeah, and in the case she was saying it was like 30 minutes on a full arch, I mean, certainly that's one where,
I would
oh yeah, let's
for
look at
sure try to update.
that.
I would for sure try to update the strategy first, because for full arches and big cases, because it can produce a lot of error meaning, we use the way that we check exactly the material left behind. Okay, so it is not supposed, at least starting like from version 3 or something. So it's not supposed to cause error meaning anymore.
Okay. Great. So that might be something. Maybe it's an old strategy version. So that means on Yago's screen here, in the where you see strategy version 5.1.0, if yours is like 2, then you might have that problem, but it would be solved
Uh,
by going to 5.
I don't remember if I'll be able to find that, but probably you would see that here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, go ahead.
And
What I'm
moving
trying to.
forward, great. So then there's one final air milling question where they're saying, yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Mary.
Yeah,
That
here.
Go ahead.
This is exactly the one that I mentioned. So this one we updated. I don't remember which version is this. 310. Okay, we
Mm,
updated the way that we do full arches to avoid rest meeting. To reduce the meeting time. So the proposal was 26 plus 0.2 minutes, and before it was like 37 and 5. So we were
mm.
like air meeting a little bit more. So if you have like a version that is older than that, probably that's the cause, and just update and you will get this fix here for you.
Great. Great. And so if it's just happening, let's say this is the other user's question. If it's just happening 10 or 15 seconds in a zirconia, maybe it's a crown, I don't know. That's probably what you're talking about. That's not as excessive as 30 minutes, obviously, but you
Yeah.
could maybe optimize that if you switch to that other option you mentioned. Whether it's worth it or not is up to you. But
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. And they're saying it
Okay.
occurs multiple times during milling, that 10 to 15 seconds lag time. So you're saying it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
So, for example, sometimes the customers they think it's error meeting, but we have the steps on the crowns here. This is here you can see that, right. So
Hmm.
usually we call that stairs. So we use that in order for us to be able to tilt the tool a little bit more, mainly for large cases. So
Hmm.
sometimes on the roughing side, we go back into those areas and we just do like an extra pass just to make sure that that area is clean. Because when I'm doing like the undercuts and I'm tilting my tool, if I'm getting closer to that area and for some reason there is like debris of material, on that area, it might cause a tool break. So on roughing, sometimes we go back and we just do another pass around that area just to be able to remove any burr, any debris of material that we might find that area, just to make sure that when we're using the tilting undercut or whatever tilting operation it is, and we might get closer to this area, you don't have any material there. So some people think, oh, it's error meeting, but it's actually going back and doing that on purpose.
Sure. But feel free to reach out, if you want to, and you can contact us at support.americas@simsystem.com if you want to send us a backup file or something.
Okay, I will start with the editor now, and then later we can answer more questions. Okay. Okay. So now you want to have like a better understanding about how the strategy editor works. Okay. And with the strategy editor, we can do a lot. And we can define tools. We can create tools here, going to the tools archive. We can change meaning parameters. We can change different options for different operations, assign different tools, like I mentioned, copy to the other registrations, copy to materials, export, import, copy to other machines. But one thing that we were not able to do in the past was to change the order of the operations, okay? And that's something that a lot of people requested us to do. And we can do that now with the builder. So the builder, it is basically something that we can use to build our own strategies, and we can configure and select exactly what we want to see, okay? So for you that are used to the options that we have, and for example, I was showing to you the undercut, okay? Try to find the undercut again. You can only see two options here of undercut. We have way more options, okay? Why you don't see that here? Because the strategy that I created for this sample machine, I am only displaying what I want to display here. So I built my strategy based on what I want to see here. So I just hid all of the options that I don't like to see. I don't want to use other types of undercut. I don't want to use other types of roughing or finishing plan or whatever options I don't want to see. I can hide them, and I can reorganize the order of the operations to try to avoid two changes here. Okay, so that's basically what I can do with the builder. So once I click here with the builder, okay, just for comparison, I have here a full strategy that I packed with the builder for another machine. Let me see here. I believe it's this one. Okay, yeah. So this is the newest version. So whenever you have the newest version, you see this icon here. So you're up to date. Okay. So those are the new options that I mentioned to you. They will be displayed here and with the warning. So they'll be in black. So if you want to use them, you can assign R2 and use them. Otherwise, you can just do something like this, just to ignore them. Or if you just ignore them, like it's black there, like it's fine. It's not going to be used. Okay. But this one, I have like all of the operations. So here, when I go to my undercut, those are the undercut options that I have. Okay. So I have the same ones as before, max 20 degrees, 3+2. Then I have multi undercut 20 degrees, 5-axis continuous at 20 degrees, 30 degrees, lollipop 2, another multi undercut, both sides, like a bunch of options. Okay, it is fine if you would like to see like all those options. It's up to you. But with the builder, I can pack like a smaller strategy, and like I can hide all of those options that I don't want to see or I don't want my customers to see. Okay, for example, when you would like to use that. So using a full strategy, you have options here for 30 degrees, right? Of course, if your machine is not able to achieve 30 degrees, we will be not overpassing limits. Even though you select 30 degrees and your machine can go to 25, it will stick to 25, okay? But if your machine goes to like 20, there's no reason to show that option to the customer. Just use the 20 here. So you can hide those options from customers that are using the editor, right? And we can use the builder here. So once I click here, and I can pack and select all of the options, all the groups that I can see here, the way that I want, okay? So I will quickly just kind of explain to you. So here we can either like search filter for something, so finishing, for example, or select the groups of operations. So I want to see, for example, semi-finishing external, or like just the roughing, like roughing on the occlusal side, so I can see it here, or I can just select what I want here and move to the right side. So on the left side, we have all of our groups of operation. On the right side, it will be what we are building, okay, our strategy. So I can move those options to the right side and pack my own strategy. I can build my own strategy. So I can do like selecting whatever I want here and move to the right side, like in this case here, and keep building my own strategy. But usually what we do here, we have like templates for that already ready. So you can either open here and open one of those templates that we can provide to you, or you can build your own and modify after that. So you can do that for different materials or group of materials as well. So you can pack a different strategy, like build a different strategy for soft and for hard materials, or per each material. So if you would like to build like something specifically for PMA, something specifically for zirconia, you can do that here. Okay, so for example, select soft here. Let me open. So this is the STF file that I mentioned to you earlier that will take care of the builder. So once I open here, this is my build strategy. Okay, and if I want, I can modify, I can change whatever I want here. So one thing that we are doing on the editor that is kind of a problem when you're changing the order of the operations, okay, it is something like, if you move the order, in theory, you can start with a finishing before roughing. That will cause you a problem because that area is not roughed yet, and you start directly with the finishing, it will hit material, it will cause a tooth break, depending on the material that you have. It might damage your spindle, like if it's titanium, for example. So what we do with the builder, we create rules internally on Scene System that we kind of block the end user to use an operation before another operation. So for example, here I have the cavity roughing that will rough the cavity for crowns, bridges, and all the other restorations. That needs to happen after the roughing on the cavity side. So I first need to remove, for example, here, this material first before I remove this material here. So I need to remove like this area here before I start the cavity, okay? So if by any chance I do something like this, where I move the cavity roughing before my roughing on the cavity side, it will display an error to you, and it won't let you pack, it won't let you compile or build that strategy because it contains an error. So there are two types of warnings or errors here. There is a warning, there is an error. An error, it won't let you pack the strategy. It is blocked. You won't be able to pack your strategy because that will for sure cause an issue. There is a warning. We don't suggest to do that operation where you have that. Like we suggest that being after that other operation, for example. One example, we don't suggest having the planing of the interface side, like for MUAs, before the finishing of the MUA, of the interface. Okay, we suggest having that after. So if you move that, you will have a warning. Not it is not something that will block you. You will still be able to pack it, but it's just a suggestion. So you see those two here. So once you click here on compile, you see exactly where the issue is. So the cavity roughing on position number 8, okay, must be after the additional roughing on position number 9. Okay, let's see if we can increase that. Okay, so we need to move them. Okay, if you want, you can try to fix that. So I will tell you, this is a new feature. I didn't try that yet. Okay, so if you click here, okay, it works. So you can click there and fix. And yeah, that's a brand new feature. They didn't test that yet. So you have the action there, and it might try to fix that for you depending on the situation. Otherwise, you need to go back and move that according to what you need. Okay. So this is the full strategy that I had before. So for example, this is a soft, so I don't want to use drilling. So I can remove that from my strategy, and the strategy will be lighter. Okay. the strategy being lighter and I remove options that I don't want to see there will make the strategy preparation when you click on start the calculation faster. So it won't affect the calculation time per se, like if the options are the same, but it will make it faster the preparation of the strategy because you have a smaller strategy. And of course, when you go back to the editor, as I just showed you for the undercuts, you will have less options and it will make that more concise, more clear to you, more focus. You can have more focus on the options that you want to show, let's say. Okay, so that's the benefit of the builder. We basically it is two main things, but it's a lot of things that we can do here. But we can build our strategies, making it smaller in operations, so it's faster and more focused of what we want to use, and we can configure the order of the operations as well. So if you have, for example, something, well, it's getting the 2.52, then it's getting the 1 millimeter, then it's getting the 2.5 again, then it's getting the 1 millimeter again, then doing like a lot of back and forth on the tool change. You can configure then here by changing the order and avoid those extra tool changes that you have. Sometimes you need to have two changes, is normal. Sometimes I can't change the order because of other reasons. Like I'm drilling a hole, it's better to drill everything at once. And you change a lot of tools because of different diameters that you have on the screw channels. But sometimes you can modify the order and make it with less tool changes by using the builder here. So once you build your strategy, you compile. It will compile the strategy, save on the area. In this case, is the soft. When you go back here, just update here, like refresh, then you see the new version of that strategy packet, and then you have less options, for example. Yeah, so that's it, basically what I wanted to show about the editor and the builder. I do believe there is way more than what I explained, mainly when we go in depth regarding the operations. Okay, we already overpassed 30 minutes of the seminar, and I'm sorry about that, guys.
Nah, nah.
But it is how can I say that? A content that it takes time to explain. And more we get in depth with each specific like operation, each specific meeting parameter for each material, each tool set, each tool type, more in depth we can get. For example, here for bridges, we have the options for the T2s, where we can use T2s either for an angle screw channel or for a straight screw channel if you would like to, like for long channels. You can
Yep.
use a T2 to help you to mill the straight channels as well. So we can just assign our T2s here and use that as default. We have different options like this one here is like to mill like an area for like a rubber O-ring for like a specific implant type that we can have it here as well. Rest machining the interface. We have several operations. I will not go too deep again on those because it takes time. And usually, when you get like strategy editor, it's highly recommended to have like a training on that to properly show you exactly what you can do. We have documents in our portal for the editor. It is not available for everybody because we don't want anyone messing around with their strategies. Okay, that can cause them issues, and we always explain that to them. But if you have knowledge, you are willing to modify a few things on your strategy, get to us at support.americas@syncssystem.com, and we can provide you with documentation for the editor and for the operations that we have in MillBox as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Yago. That's great. And you kind of answered one of our questions. If you guys have questions, feel free to get them in. We can hang out for a few more minutes if you got some specific questions. They were asking about, Rosen, Vortex, direct to MUA. What's the best strategy for milling like that internal? And you mentioned the T tool, which I think is likely part of our answer for clearing that material at the 90-degree wall there
Yeah.
with the ball nose tool, of course, at the 90 degree. you can't get it. There's a little slanted material there. So you have
Yeah.
to come in from the other side with a T-tool and clear all that. So,
And regarding like Rosen Barbell Vortex and those special screw seats,
mhm,
we do have a replace library, and we have a video about that on the help .synsystem.com.
absolutely.
Uh, and let me show you here. For those who doesn't,
Oh, there we go. We cut out for a second, Yago, but go ahead.
yeah, sorry, we have that help button there, which will lead you to the portal. Are you hearing me well? I can
Yep,
see here
yep,
that like okay. And here we have like a few videos walkthroughs, and we have like a special screw seats workflow. I
yeah,
suggest you to take a look on that. And we have here under download as well. We have those replace libraries. So I can see everything here because my account allows me to see everything, but you should be seeing like replace library here, and you can download that special screw seat library, and there is like an explanation how you can add that on your MillBox as well. Okay,
100%.
if there's a video here, well, there was supposed to be a video, not sure
Oh,
where the
yeah, we have
video
to go
is.
check that out.
But yeah, there is a like a guide through here that you can follow and apply those libraries into your MillBox as well. But we do recommend using the replace library for those.
Awesome. Well, great. I'm seeing no other questions, guys. If you don't have Strategy Editor and you want personal access in the United States, you need to do an upgrade to Expert. So go ahead and talk to your dealers. I think it's typically 3,000 USD, but don't quote me. And that'll give you access to what he just said, the replace library for your interfaces, and then Strategy Editor. Again, if you want to just talk to your dealer, you can do so, and they can help you implement things. Obviously, the pace could be a little quicker if you do it yourself and know how to, but your dealer
Yeah,
spends time with us, annually or so, and learns about some of these things. They should be able to help you a little bit too. So reach out to them, reach out to us at Support That Americas, if you're looking to make, some changes.
yeah.
So,
So to me, like if you just want to use like to apply like a few modifications, like the one that I showed you, I don't want to always select my undercut. I just want to make as default. Usually your dealer is able to help you applying those changes without you have to buy like strategy editor. You don't need to buy just for that. Dealer can access your computer. We can allow them to use editor for like a few minutes just to apply those changes. But if you want to keep like applying changes, keep testing things, I will suggest you to acquire the or upgrade to the expert module, or acquire the strategy editor module, because if you are in constant need of like applying those changes, it might be a little bit hard for your dealer to keep track of everything.
yeah,
So it is easier for you to get that and get the knowledge to do yourself.
absolutely. Yep. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, we're here to help. Reach out if you need anything. Yago, thank you so much for your time today. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Don't worry about going over, and a recording will be available. Guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.